My name is Elra Quinn. I am 30 years old. Last month, as I was heading to the office, the brakes of my car suddenly stopped working. I lost control and it all ended in a terrible crash. After that moment, everything faded into darkness. When I finally opened my eyes, I found myself lying in a hospital bed. I had undergone 5 surgeries, yet somehow I was still alive. Then the police told me something that changed everything. This was not an accident, it had been planned. And when I eventually discovered the truth, the color drained from my face. Before I tell you what really happened, please like and subscribe to the channel and let me know where you're watching from. Now let's begin. That morning felt completely ordinary. I got ready for work just like I always did. I still remember my little daughter hugging me tightly before I left. "Come back early, Mommy," she said gently. I smiled and kissed her forehead. "I will," I promised. My husband stood near the door watching me. "Drive safe," he said. There was something sincere in his eyes, something warm and genuine. I nodded and stepped outside, unaware that my life was about to change forever. I began driving toward the office. The road wasn't too crowded and everything seemed peaceful. My thoughts wandered to simple things, my work, my home, my daughter. Then suddenly I pressed the brake. Nothing happened. My heart skipped. I pressed it again, harder this time, still nothing. "No, no," I whispered as the car began to speed up. I tried to steady the steering wheel, but my hands started trembling. I kept pressing the brake again and again, but it wouldn't respond. Fear took over me. "Stop, please stop," I cried out, but the car didn't obey. It spun out of control, and then everything happened in a blur, a deafening crash, glass breaking, a violent impact, and then darkness. I don't remember what followed. Later, I was told that people had gathered around the scene. Strangers rushed toward the wreck and pulled me out. I was covered in blood, barely alive. Someone yelled, "Call an ambulance." Everything was hazy. I couldn't move. I couldn't speak. And then once again, everything went black. The doctors rushed me into the hospital on a stretcher. Bright lights flashed above me as people moved quickly around. "Critical condition," someone said. I caught a glimpse of my husband beside me, crying, pleading, "Please save her." They wheeled me into the operation room. Everything felt cold. The sounds grew louder, machines, voices, chaos. "We're losing her," someone said. Then a doctor leaned over me. "It's going to be okay," he assured. They gave me anesthesia and slowly everything faded away. I don't remember anything after that, but later my friend told me everything. She said I went through 5 surgeries, one after another. My body had been severely damaged and I had lost a lot of blood. At one point, the doctors said there was almost no hope. They told us they were doing everything they could, but you might not make it, my friend said, her voice trembling. She told me my husband never left the hospital, not even for a moment. He donated his own blood for me. He stayed outside the operation room, waiting, praying, crying. He hardly slept. Sometimes he sat on the floor. Sometimes he stood near the door for hours. But he never gave up. My little daughter came to see me too. She stood beside my bed holding my hand. "Mommy, wake up," she kept saying over and over again. Hearing that later shattered me completely. My mother was there as well. My entire family stood by my side. But my friend made one thing clear: no one was as broken as my husband. Days passed and I was still unconscious. Not moving, not responding. Then finally, after 2 long days, I opened my eyes. Everything looked blurry. My body felt weak, heavy, and the first thing I saw was my husband sitting beside me. His eyes were red, filled with tears. He was holding my hand tightly. "You're awake," he whispered, his voice shaking as tears rolled down his face. At that moment, I understood something. This man truly loved me. He didn't leave me when I was dying. He stayed, but when I slowly looked around, I noticed something strange. The way my family looked at him, cold, silent, like they didn't trust him, like they were blaming him for something. I didn't understand it at that time, but deep inside a strange feeling started growing because that accident didn't feel like an accident. And I had no idea that this was just the beginning of a much darker truth. A few days passed after I woke up. My body was still weak and every movement hurt, but my mind would not rest. Something about that accident felt wrong, very wrong. One afternoon, a police officer came into my room. He stood quietly for a moment, then looked at me seriously. "We have the investigation report," he said. My heart started beating faster. "What did you find?" I asked slowly. He took a deep breath. "This was not an accident. Those words froze everything inside me. What do you mean? I whispered. He looked straight at me. Your car brakes were deliberately damaged, he said. Someone planned this? For a moment I couldn't speak. My hands started shaking. Someone tried to kill me. Before I could even process it, my family reacted. This is exactly what we feared. My uncle said loudly. My mother looked at the officer. We already know who did it, she said. I frowned. What are you saying? I asked. Then she said the one thing I never expected. Your husband. It felt like the world stopped. No, I said immediately. That's not true, but they didn't listen. He married you for money, my uncle continued. He wanted your share of the property. That's why he did this, someone else added. I shook my head again and again. No, you're wrong. He would never do this, I said, but their voices kept getting louder, more confident, more cruel. The police officer looked at them. Do you have any proof? He asked. My mother spoke firmly. We have always suspected him, she said. He had the biggest reason. I looked at my husband. He was standing in the corner of the room, silent, shocked, hurt. This is not true, he said slowly. I would never do this. But no one believed him. The officer stepped forward. We need you to come with us for questioning, he said. Before I could react, they held my husband. No, stop, I cried. I tried to get up from the bed and pain shot through my body, but I didn't care. He didn't do anything, I shouted. My husband looked at me, his eyes filled with pain. I didn't do this, he said softly. I know, I whispered, tears falling down my face, but they still took him away right in front of me. I felt completely helpless. The door closed behind them and silence filled the room. I broke down, crying, shaking. No, this is wrong, I kept saying, but no one comforted me. My family stood there cold like they had already decided everything. That night I couldn't sleep. I kept thinking about everything, the accident, the report, the accusation. And one thing kept repeating in my mind. He stayed with me, he gave his blood. He cried for me. A person like that cannot try to kill me. I refused to believe it. The next morning I made a decision. If no one was going to find the truth, I would, even if I had to do it alone. After a few days, when I got a little stronger, I started asking questions. First, I spoke to the police. What exactly did you find? I asked. They told me the brakes were not just damaged, they were carefully tampered with. This was done by someone who knew what they were doing, the officer said. That confirmed one thing, this was planned. I then asked about the car. When was it last checked? I asked. Recently, they replied. That made my mind race. Someone had access to it, someone close. I started digging deeper, talking to people, trying to remember every detail, every small thing. But something felt strange. Every time I got close to something, it felt like the truth was being hidden, like someone didn't want me to find out. And slowly, a disturbing thought entered my mind. What if this wasn't just about my husband? What if someone inside my own family knew more than they were saying? That thought scared me, but I couldn't ignore it because nothing was making sense anymore. Days passed, and with every passing day, my doubt grew stronger. Not on my husband, but on everything else. Because deep inside, I felt it clearly. The truth was still hidden, and whoever was behind this was closer to me than I ever imagined. Days passed, and I kept searching, talking to people, thinking again and again, but nothing clear came out. Every path felt blocked, like someone was hiding everything carefully. And then one night my mother came into my room. It was late. Her face looked different, serious, shaken. Can we talk? She asked softly. Something in her voice felt heavy. I sat up slowly. What happened? I asked. She closed the door behind her, came closer and sat beside me. For a few seconds she said nothing, just looked down at her hands. Then finally she spoke. I need to tell you something, she said. My heart started beating faster. What is it? I asked, her eyes filled with tears. I didn't want to believe it, she whispered. My body went still. Believe what? I asked. She looked at me and said the one thing that shattered everything. Your brother. I froze. What? I whispered. I heard him, she said. My mind refused to accept it. He was talking to his wife last night, she continued. They were talking about your accident. My hands started shaking. No, that's not possible, I said, but her tears said otherwise. They planned it, she said. The room felt like it was spinning. They said if you had died, her voice broke, everything would have been his. My heart dropped. My own brother, the same person I trusted, the same person I grew up with, he wanted me dead. For property, she said quietly, her hands shaking now. I heard him clearly, she continued. He said if you died, all of your late father's property would automatically belong to him. My breath stopped. He said he didn't want to share anything with you, she said, her voice trembling. He didn't want to give you your half, tears rolled down her face. He said once you were gone, everything would be his and no one would question it. I felt like my whole world was collapsing. All this just for property, I whispered, my voice broke. If he wanted it, I would have given it to him, I said, crying now. I would have given him everything without even thinking. My chest felt heavy, but instead I choked. He tried to kill me. My mother couldn't hold herself anymore. She started crying too. I couldn't believe it, she said. I tried to ignore it, but I can't lose my daughter to save my son. Her words shattered me completely. For a moment we both just sat there crying as silence filled the room, then I wiped my tears slowly. What do we do now? I asked in a broken voice. My mother looked at me with pain but also determination. Then she took out her phone. I recorded everything, she said. My heart started beating faster. She opened the recording. This is his voice, she whispered. And now, she looked straight at me, we will give this to the police. The next day we went together. We gave them the recording and told them everything. At first they were silent. Then everything started moving fast. The police reopened the case, investigated again, and this time they found everything. Proof, evidence, connections. There was no escape. My brother was arrested. His wife too. No more lies, no more hiding, just truth. A few days later, my husband was released. I saw him again standing in front of me, free but hurt, deeply hurt. I told you, he said softly. I know, I whispered, tears falling from my eyes. I never doubted you, I said. He looked at me and slowly held my hand again, just like before. But everything had changed now, not between us but in my world. My family was broken, trust was gone. And the truth left a scar that would never fade. Because the person who tried to kill me was not a stranger, not an enemy, but my own brother. And that pain is something I will carry forever.